Hello, welcome to Bourbon and a Baby. My name is Jay, and Max is not going to be joining us today because Max is currently asleep in his crib, but yet he is still not old enough to drink Ohio whiskey. Alright, and we have another episode of Drink Ohio Whiskey. I love doing this series. I love being able to highlight different bourbons and whiskeys that are coming out of Ohio, my home state, and let you know if there's something that you should look for or pass on by. So that's kind of my goal with this series here. So what I'm going to be drinking today is actually Cleveland Christmas Bourbon. A couple of things to note right off the top. First of all, this was a gift to me, a Christmas gift to me from Max. So Max, buddy, I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for the thoughtful gift. Amazing. You'll never go wrong by buying me a bottle of bourbon. With that being said, though, I'm not sure how you were able to go into our local Kroger liquor store and purchase this bottle and not get ID'd, or maybe you have a fake ID. But even if you have a fake ID, sorry to say, you don't look close enough to 21. So somebody might want to check into what's going on there. Probably shouldn't be happening. And the other big thing I want to note off the bat is about Cleveland whiskey itself. Not just this one in particular. They produce a couple others. Their flagship is the Cleveland Black Reserve. And they also have their Cleveland Underground series, which they use different wood chip flavoring. And then also they just recently released their Wheat Penny, which is a wheated bourbon. But what they do is a little controversial in the bourbon world because they do what we call the rapid aging process. So this process, instead of a traditional bourbon that you're going to have is distilled and then put into a barrel and stored for X amount of years, and then it's dumped and bottled, and there you have it. What Cleveland does is they follow all the rules that they need to follow to be bourbon. They only let it age for I think a couple of days, maybe a week, 2 weeks, something. I forget the exact average number they say. But then they put it in. After that, they put it into vats with wood chips, and they do this process that's supposed to simulate what would happen if it were age in a barrel over time. So they're pressurizing it where it's supposed to be pushing the liquid in and out of those wood chips multiple times very rapidly, and it's supposed to again kind of speed up the aging process to where you're able to produce their goal is to produce an 8 or 9 year a traditional 8 or 9 year old flavor profile in a couple of days or a couple of weeks time. Now most bourbon purists or most in the bourbon community tend to look down upon that process, think that it doesn't necessarily work that well, and I'm kind of coming to it from that perspective as well. I've had the Cleveland Black Reserve. Maybe at some point I'll do a review of it, but I thought it was terrible personally, and just did not like it whatsoever. But I do know people that do like it, so it's taste, preference, all of those things. So I just want to put that up front because that's the base whiskey that goes into this is the Cleveland Black Reserve, but then they add flavoring to it. So for the Cleveland Christmas Bourbon, another thing I want to note is I take a little bit of issue with them calling it Christmas Bourbon because they do add flavoring to it. It is a flavored whiskey, and it's interesting how they kind of get around that. designation to be able to call it a bourbon, because on the front label, even though it has this kind of neck tag where it says Christmas Bourbon on there, I don't think that matters to the TTB as much. But on the front label, it just says Cleveland on the side, Christmas across the front here, and then it says spice flavored bourbon whiskey. So they kind of note that it's flavored, and the flavored comes before the bourbon. On the back though, it just says Christmas Bourbon. So little things like that most people might not care about. Things that I kind of nerd out about. I don't think that they should be able to call it bourbon, at least on the front label. But neither here nor there. That's a discussion for another day. I will say I do really like the design of this label, and that's a design that I think they're going to change out every year. I know that it came in different colors this year. You could get like 3 or 4 different colors. Much better than the original design when they first released this product. If I find a picture, I'll throw it up over here. I'll put it in my hand. There. So definitely not as appealing as this. And just to kind of read what this is about, right here on the back, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it does say it's certainly different than traditional bourbon, and it's more than just a flavored whiskey. Imagine the taste and subtle aroma of Christmas spices like nutmeg and cinnamon, along with orange peel and sweet cherry, black peppercorn, and a touch of licorice and clove. So let's go ahead and get into this. Full disclosure, this is my second time filming this particular video, because I filmed the entire thing and then realized that I forgot to turn the microphone on. So microphone's on now. Here's take 2. And one thing I will say before I even pick this up and officially nose it, just opening the bottle, you can smell that those baking spices that they're going for here. You can really smell the cinnamon and the nutmeg. And yeah, it's definitely cinnamon forward. Really reminds me of a Red Hot candy, but not like the Red Hot candy after it's been in your mouth for like 30 or 40 seconds. Kind of what that tastes like is what it smells. What this smells like. The cinnamon's really strong up front, but once you kind of get past that a little bit, you can really then pick up on the nutmeg and the clove, and then it just has this like really overwhelmingly just what I would say just sweetness coming across, like just real sugary or brown sugary, but yeah, this real candy sweetness coming through. All right, let's give this a taste. Thanks again, Max. Cheers. So it does hit heavy again. The cinnamon is kind of the most dominant flavor coming through, especially right off the top. But then it kind of fades into, you can also taste the nutmeg. You can really get that candy sweetness that I was getting on the nose as well. But the sweetness kind of comes through more on the finish. It's real cinnamon, nutmeg heavy up front, and then that sugary sweetness on the finish. Let's try sip number 2. The more you drink it, it definitely mellows out, and those flavors kind of don't hit as heavy after several sips. This being now my like 4th or 5th sip that I've had. But it does stay. I mean, that Christmas flavor, it's there for a reason. That cinnamon, that nutmeg, that clove. I don't really get the licorice they mention. I do get the orange peel some. It's not super strong, but it does kind of rear its head up here and there. But it's just so sweet. Now it actually really reminds me a lot of Fireball whiskey or Jack Daniel's Fire. I think this is better than both of those. So if you really like those, I know Fireball is really popular. So if you like Fireball, I think you'll like this, and you'll probably like this more. At least I think so. You don't get a lot of traditional bourbon flavor coming through at all, but it's just so sweet. So it's not really up my alley. It's not something that I'm going to go back to very often. I have heard this goes really well in eggnog, and I personally love eggnog. So I don't really have any eggnog right now to try this in, but next holiday season I'll definitely try this in eggnog. I've also heard it goes well in apple cider. I'm not an apple cider guy. I don't like apples. So, but that could be something that it would mix well in. I could see this actually making a pretty good hot toddy if you like hot toddies. I think this would probably be interested in that and mix well in a hot toddy, but it's just not for me to just sit back and sip on. It's just not for me. Not something I'm looking for in my bourbon drinking experience. So I still appreciate you, Max. I still love the gift. So don't feel bad. It's a great gift, and it's something I can share. Especially around the holidays. I do want to say, if you are interested at all in learning more about this particular bourbon or some of the other offerings from Cleveland Whiskey, my friends Derek and Nick over at Keeping It Neat, they put out they did a live sip along with this with a rep from Cleveland Whiskey, where they went through, I believe they did the Christmas, they did the Black Reserve, the Wheat Penny, and the Cleveland Underground. So if you want to learn more about that, check out that episode. I will link it right up here or right up here. I don't remember which side it is. I feel like it's here, which means it's probably here. Anyway, check that out if you want to learn more about this, because they do a good job of kind of going through and explaining the process of all of that. So just to wrap things up, this is not a recommend from me personally, but if you like flavored whiskeys, you like Fireball or Jack Fire or things like that, I think you will like this. I think this does have a place. And I'm pretty sure it sells pretty well every year. So there are a lot of people that like it. It's just not necessarily my thing. So with that being said, please, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. That would be amazing. And if you are interested in sporting some Bourbon and a Baby merchandise, you can find those at our shop on Spreadshirt. I'll throw that link in the description below. Again, thanks for watching. Again, Max, buddy, awesome gift. Love ya. Cheers, everybody. Ooh, I really got the orange peel that time. Really, really strong.